Robert Crumb is an American cartoonist and illustrator whose work displays a nostalgia for American folk culture of the late 19th and early 20th centuries and satire of contemporary American culture. He was one of the founders of the underground comics and is perhaps the most prominent figure in the movement. Although he is one of the best-known comic book authors, his career has always developed outside the industry. Robert Crumb was born in Philadelphia on August 30, 1943, to a Marine father and Catholic mother. His family moved frequently during his childhood and moved to Delaware in 1956. Robert's mother often behaved erratically and was probably manic-depressive. Robert was a faithful Catholic until he was 16. His biggest influence during his youth was his older brother Charles, who loved comics and co-wrote many of the comics they produced as a children. In 1959, they created a comic called Cat Life, based on the experience of Fred, the family cat. A year later, the cat had gone from being a common cat to one with anthropomorphic appearance, and his name had changed to Fritz. Fritz appeared in the early 60s Animal Town strips, drawn by Charles and Robert. Sometimes Fritz was accompanied by Fuzzy the Bunny, who served as an alter ego for Charles, his creator. After graduating from high school, Robert spent the present year at home, mostly drawing and talking about the meaning of life with Charles, who never did leave home. He finally left for Cleveland in 1962 to live with his friend Marty Pauls. And soon found work with the American Greeting Corporation as a color separator. He was promoted within a year to the High Brown department and drew hundreds of cards over the next several years. His job as a commercial illustrator would have an effect on his future work. My boss kept telling me my drawings were too grotesque. I was trained to draw cute little nude characters, which influenced my technique, and even now my work has this cuteness about it. In 1964, Crumb married Dana Morgan. They honeymooned in Europe for 6 months, while Crumb continued to mail in his illustrations for American Greetings. After a temporary breakup with Dana, Robert was traveling to New York, Chicago, and Detroit. He started taking LSD, something that changed his perspective on life. He stopped taking cartooning so seriously and made him see another side of himself. Crumb leaves Cleveland for San Francisco with 2 people he met at a bar who told him they were driving east. Dana followed him there. Crumb drew Sub number 1 and Sub number 0 in the fall of 1967 and sold them on the street in 1968, so marks the birth of underground comics, with Crumb as its most recognizable force. Zap Comic was an underground comic series which was originally part of the youth counterculture of the late 60s, while a few small circulation self-published satirical comic books had been printed prior to this. Zap became the model for the comics movement that snowballed after its release. In 1969, Robert was basically non-stop at home, coming and going, sleeping in hotels, traveling to Detroit, New York, and Chicago. But despite being a chaotic way of life, he was able to create a lot of comics. At that time, he created Big Ass and Snatch. In the last months of 1969, Crumb received a $10,000 advance from Ballantine Books for a Fritz the Cat book. He used that money as a down payment on a plot of land north of San Francisco, in Potter Valley, where he, Dana, and their child moved. In the same year, Ralph Bakshi was browsing the East Side bookstore on St. Mark's Place. Bakshi came across a copy of Robert Crumb's Fritz the Cat. Impressed by Crumb's sharp satire, Bakshi purchased the book and suggested to his studio partner, Steve Krantz, that it would work as a film. Bakshi was interested in directing the film because he felt that Crumb's work was the closest to his own. Crumb arranged a meeting with Crumb during which Bakshi showed Crumb drawings that had been created as the result of Bakshi attempting to learn Crumb's style to prove that he could translate the look of Crumb's artwork to animation. Impressed by Bakshi's tenacity, Crumb lent him one of his sketchbooks as a reference. Fritz the Cat opened on April 12, 1972 in Hollywood and Washington, D.C. Although the film only had a limited release, it was a worldwide hit. With a $700,000 budget, it grossed $25 million in the United States and over $90 million worldwide, making it one of the most successful independent films of all time. However, Crumb had disagreements with the filmmakers regarding the political content of the film. In 1974, Crumb moved from Potter Valley and settled down in Madison, California with his new girlfriend, Aline Kaminsky. He drew a Mr. Natural strip which ran in the Village Voice for about a year. In 1981, Crumb produced and edited a new comic magazine called Weirdo, which included the work of other artists. While still contributing with Weirdo, he created the Hop series in the late 80s and early 90s. With increasing suburban sprawl, which the Crumbs were not at all comfortable with, they decided to leave. Robert exchanged some of his sketchbooks for their new house in the south of France. Crumb's friend Terry Zwickov filmed Robert and his family before they moved, and the resulting documentary Crumb achieved some success at the box office in America and some countries in Europe. Except for the occasional expedition to Paris or America, Crumb has nestled himself in the south of France. There he finished his long-term project illustrating the Book of Genesis. Genesis is a titanic 4-year job, meticulous and exhaustive in documentary terms, which assumes the double risk of transferring to cartoons a masterpiece of universal literature that is also a sacred text. The result is a fascinating read that enriches and amplifies the original, as well as definitive proof that Crumb is among the greatest comic artists of our time.